Oi, oi, the bio-pirate. There we go. I'm back at RC. How are we doing? Welcome to Buzz Buggies. My name is Jim Bob. I have finally got out with the bio-pirate like I promised. And I'm going to do some like tuning stuff and how to get started with a Nitro. If you don't know, if you're new to it, I'm going to try and do my very worst to help you out. So we're going to get this thing running. We're going to do a little bit of tuning on it, I imagine, because it'll be a little bit off. Last time I took it out, the thing fell apart and all the screws coming out and loose and stuff. Hopefully I've sorted it now. It's a body shell there. Right, old school thing. Offner. Pirate MT. The original wheels. I have gone and done a silly thing though, and I haven't got my tripod. So somehow I've got to now film, do this, drive it and stuff. Yeah, I don't know, I see it, but I'm gonna do my best. It's very windy today, everything's blowing all over and that, so if there's any wind noise I apologise. Right, what do you need to get started with a Nitro? Right, you're gonna need some glow sticks. I'd always take a few with you because you do run out of charge quite quickly at times, dependent on the milliamp hour, which is basically how much lifespan that they have. That's a 3000 milliamp hour, and this one, as it say, that's 2100. So the battery will last less in that one than it will that one. So try and get a bigger milliamp if you can. So you need those. You need like some tools. You're going to need more than that really. You get some pliers and some hex tools or screwdrivers and that as well. If you, it's best to bring bits with you. Some spares as well in case you know, things do go wrong. You can repair it on site while you're there. You're going to need a screwdriver of flatness. Obviously the controller. Make sure the batteries are charged in that. You need a battery pack in the car. Make sure they're fully charged. This has not got a fail-safe on it, which means the throttle, basically if the batteries run out or it loses signal for any reason, the throttle will just go wide open and the car will run away and it'll be gone and you'll have no control and you'll crash or something will happen. I don't know, maybe hit an animal or something, I don't know. You just don't want to be doing that, so I should have a fail-safe on this, but I'm on a car park where nobody really goes today, so it's nice and quiet. You're going to need a fuel bottle, some fuel of your preference. I go for 25%, 20s is alright, depends really on the engine and stuff. This is a Hyper 21 engine. This thing here, this is the main needle. This is like the most dominant needle, which is to do with, you know, you see the fuel line feeds in there. So this one really, if this isn't right, you're never really going to get these lower ones right. We'll talk about that a bit more in a moment. You need an air filter with some oil on it. Get some air filter oil on there. Some of this you'll already know, but I'm just so I'm not going to go too mad on this bit explaining stuff. I could go on for hours to be honest, but yeah, you want some oil on your air filter. So your batteries are charged, you've got your thingy, you need obviously a glow plug in there. So if you didn't already know, if you're not in the know, when you put that stick on that little plug there, that's what's going to ignite the engine. Simple as that. A bit like a diesel. It's like a mini diesel engine. So where do you start? Let's get into this. Let's get going now. You just got the thing, you've bought it off eBay or something, and you got it back, all the screws are all over the place. You're like, oh no, I ain't got a clue what I'm doing with tuning. You know, where would you start with that? So what I would do is you need to turn on the radio gear really before you do this. But down there's a little half moon gap just down in there. That is your idle gap or carb gap. That's your slide. So basically if you've got no gap, the engine's never going to idle, because it's like if the throttle, it's basically opening the throttle a little bit. If the throttle ain't open, you've got no air going in there with a fuel mixture. It's not really the fuel air mix, it's not going in, then you're not going to get an idle. If this screw here, that's the low speed needle, if that one's wrong, you're not going to get and idle, because that controls the fuel air mixture at the low end of the revs. And this one controls, this is the high speed needle, but I'm going to call it the main needle in this video because that is the most dominant needle in everything. You get that one right, you get that one right, and get the carb gap, you can reduce it as you're tuning. And we need to talk about lean and rich as well in a minute. Right, so you're going to need some fuel in it. You need to prime it. I've seen a lot of people say they don't prime the engine first. You can take that off there and blow through that line, or put your thumb over the exhaust and then pull it over on the pulley. Some are table starters or bump starters. This is on a pull start, and some are on a rotary start, but either way it starts the RC up. Right, what else are we going to do? So we need to get started really, don't we? So we get the air filter on. I'm trying to think of anything. Oh, mid speed, this is a needle light in here. This one should be flush, something like that. Never touch that one. If it has been, just put it like that, just put it sort of flush in an angle like that. But yeah, you don't really want to be touching that. So that one's to do with the transfer from the low speed, so the low end revs, to the high speed, so that's like the mid sort of range. Right, I'm just going to stop filming a minute, get some of this all ready, get prepped up. Prime the, like I said, I've got no tripod, so I'm a bit stuck. I can't really sort of film me doing things, so I'm just going to have to explain it the best I can. I'm going to prime it up by blowing through this pipe, and then I'm going to get the glow stick on the top. You can remove the glow stick, you can remove the glow and check that it's glowing first before you try and start, because no glow, no go. But I'm just going to get the thing primed, all that one, and then somehow lean this camera up so I can you know, pull it off. And then I'm going to try and show you the difference between too much fuel, which is running rich, and too less fuel, running lean. Okay, for practice sake, like, things can get a little bit messy when you're learning and that, especially if you do have them rich and stuff. It spits like nitro all over, so some gloves are always a good thing. Right, I'm going to give you now a baseline setting, especially for the Hyper 21 engines. I think the Mach 28s as well, I think you can get away with roughly the same. So you've just got your thing, like I said earlier, all your screws are all over the place. You've just bought it second hand. Where do you start with it? This low end here, put that all the way in, 3 turns out, flush with the ball collar almost there. This high end, do it all the way out, so all the way in, and then do it about 3.5 turns out, which will put you to like flush with the lip there, and then do it 1 turn in. That's where I started with this one. And remember, 1 mil carb gap. The idle's going to reduce the carb gap and make it bigger. There is a screw somewhere hiding. Where is it? Why can I not see it? No, it's around the other side, that's why. There's an idle screw. Oh, what are you getting that? I'm going to have to get me pokey dokey. It's this screw here. I don't know if you're seeing this. There's a screw down there, right? And anyway, that's the idle screw. I can't even actually show you. It's down there, and that'll make the gap smaller or bigger. I promise you guys, I'm going to start this in a moment. So if you run this too lean, not enough fuel, it'll burn the engine out. If you run it too rich, it'll be all like boggy, spitty, and it probably just won't want to run. And also, if you have it too rich, it can damage the glow plugs as well, so always be wary of that. I thought I'd mention that right here. Right, I need to get the thing running, so now I can show you the difference between too lean and too rich. If you pull starting it, you can almost tell if it's rich without even having to start it, because if you're pulling it and it becomes really difficult, the head is flooded with fuel, flooded. So you have to take out your glowy, pull it a few times, get excess fuel out, put it back in and start again. So you can already tell if you're pulling it, it's like really hard. You need to wind in this high screw a little bit, and maybe the low end a little bit. We'll get to that in a second. Massive apologies about the angle there. I just haven't got a tripod. I'm sorry. I'm going to try and explain things the best that I can. So at this point we need to put the radio gear on. So we're going to turn on the controller, turn on the vehicle. Just show you this carb thing. I carb. So make sure that this is shut. Make sure the carb's shut and it's opening on the throttle. Make sure you've got steering. It's not very strong on this, but we have. Right, we've topped up the fuel tank, we've primed up the car, we've got the radio gear on. We need to get it idling and get it warming up. A big problem that I see what some people do, they don't allow enough fuel on the low end. To get that like 3 turns out, you've got to give it fuel on idle. I do see that a lot with the high end as well. They're generally not feeding it enough fuel. So as it's trying to gather speed and, you know, it's burning the fuel more efficiently, it runs out of fuel. It hasn't got enough and they start leaning and I'll show you that soon, hesitating and getting hot. And that's the problem. You've got to feed them fuel. You need smoke. Smoke's actually good on these. Don't be scared of it. Right, let's pull it off. So at the minute, it does feel a little bit hard to tug, but it's not too bad. You should have some resistance, some compression in the engine. There we go. So we're going to leave it now, just for about 2 minutes maybe. Just sit like that, get some warmth in it. We've got a nice idle gap, so I did do some tuning on it actually the other day when it fell apart, so I got it dialed in a bit there. It's just trial and error really, but you've got to start off at base settings. When you buy them brand new, you'll get like a factory setting anyway. This high-end screw will be really rich when you get them new, so just as you run the engine in, you start to lean up on the high speed to get more performance, but never go too far with it. So we're just going to let this warm up. Camera angle's terrible, I'm sorry, well, at least I'm trying to help you. We'll get this out again another time and I can get a GoPro. So right, we're going to try and give it some revs now. You should have, if the low end's good, you should have a good trigger like that. Bit of smoke. So, at the minute, it's very rich, that's why it's like spitty, like that, that's why there's no performance. What we're going to start to do now is, leaning up, so less fuel, go clockwise on that high speed needle a little bit, like that. That's all we're going to do at the moment. As we lean up the engine, the revs will start to increase. That's when you reduce the idle gap. If it's too lean on the low end, the engine will start acting erratic. You hear that? You hear that slight change? It's going to try and cut, look, because there's not enough fuel. So we're just going to wind that back a little bit. That's the sign of too lean. If you do it too much counterclockwise, anti-clockwise, and it just won't start, it's because this is too rich. I advise you just keep that flush, this low end. Right, let's restart it. I'm going to try and do this one-handed, right? Steering's awful, I can't do it, my hands aren't big enough. You hear that? So, too rich, it's spitting too much fuel, too much smoke. So it doesn't want to accelerate very well. There. Just boggy. Now it's cut. So what we're going to do is start to lean up the high end. So we're just going to give less fuel on that top. I can't really film it and do it, I'm so sorry, but we're just going to turn that in a bit, that top end of it. Didn't say anything about endpoints, did I? Well, like endpoints are where, like the carb, like that. So basically, if the endpoints, what happened there is when I pressed down on that, it's closed the carb gap. That's what the idle screw does. It stops it. because like it's not quite set properly. But you've got end points as well on the servos, and if they're not like right and that, the throttle's not going to open properly as well. So right, I'm going to fire this up again. I've turned that top one in half a turn on the top, and you'll see the difference now. Right, backfired up again. You'll see the difference in a minute. Wait a second, don't lean that there. Oops, I've rolled it. You're probably not even getting that, are you? Right, listen to how the revs have increased now. I need to do the idle gap really. You'll see the performance difference, it's not turning very well. Starting to get a bit more. Got no brakes, so we need to reduce the idle gap. Let me just cut that out. It's not going to cut out, is it? That's it. I didn't want to use my finger because it'll be hot. Where was that? So basically, as I've leaned out the engine, it's basically, so it started to increase the revs. So now we would normally start to reduce the idle gap. We know we've got a good low end, still a little bit spitty, so we can definitely lean that up a bit more. The video's getting a bit long. I've done my best to try and explain things now, but you can see sort of what I'm doing. I hope you can anyway. Just hope it helps you a little bit. So yeah, so as you lean up, the revs will increase. You need to reduce idle gap. To get, sometimes if it won't idle and you've got 1 mil gap, just put that low end in clockwise a little bit. Just lean that one a bit and you should find idle. If it's not, normally it's because it's too rich and you're trying to start, and you'll feel it through that pulley, and you should never really, well, you never have that wound in too far or anything. Just flush that. Most of my buggies and that, they're all flush on there, so you don't really touch that much. So yeah, we can lean out the high end a little bit more and then reduce the idle gap to compensate. The thing's not driving very well. I think it needs a good check over. The steering's not good. There's one wheel's driving harder than the other one. It's going all over the place, so it's not really the best even like truck or whatever to actually show you on. It's an old thing, but maybe I'll try again on a newer vehicle. Right, so in fact I'll just reduce the idle gap a little bit, lean out a bit more on there, and I'm going to show you what too lean is, and then I'm going to leave it at that, I think. So I've leaned it up more on the high end and reduced the idle gap a little bit. Oh, maybe leaned it up too much, so that erraticness is too lean. I'll show you that. Watch this. Oh, in fact it's not even, it's probably tuned at that. There you go. Where that? Too lean, so not enough fuel. Not enough fuel. I'm dropping everything here. Good. Right. I'm getting my screwdriver, riching it back up. Probably about half a turn. This is madness trying to film like this. I really apologise, I need to get my head together then. Right. So all I'm going to do is add some more fuel, half a turn, a little bit more than half a turn, say, and then I'll show you. This will start running now. I left the control over here like an absolute ding dong. But I think that's covered as much as I can think of off the top of my head. Thing's bouncing around. Oh, I'm dropping my phone. Oh my god, I do not want to do that. Oh, I've lost it now. Where's it gone? Oh, disaster RC heads, but I hope that helps you. Where's it going? You see, that's tuned now. Apart from that, but it's going to sort that got slightly. The thing needs a proper overhaul. It really does. I have gone over the screws and stuff like that, but really, an old engine, it's probably been sat on a shelf for years. But there you go. That's the basics of it. I hope it helps. I'm going to total off now. A Bio-Pirate. It's a cool little thing, but just old. All the wheel bearings are at it and everything. Everything's wobbling around, and it's, bless it. We'll see you soon, RC-heads, on the next one. Take it easy. Bye. Always top up your fuel tank. That's why it cut out. Right. See you later.